Hello guys, welcome back to the Beastie Room. Now, we've had a couple of disappointing egg sacs, and we've had a couple of 50-50 egg sacs. So I thought what we'd do is we'd have a look at our Balfouris. Now these are a spider that we do very, very well with, and we breed a lot of them. And we get lots and lots of questions about how we go about things, what we do, things to look for when we've bred our Balfouri and what have you. And so I thought we actually have a good opportunity here in the Beastie Room at this moment in time, because we've got these three here have all hatched out, and then we've got this one here that is preparing to go. And I thought it'd be a nice opportunity to cover some of the questions, some of the things that we get asked and what have you. Now, if we go to, if we start here, when we breed our female Balfouris, we keep our females in a single on their own. So we keep them in these 20 by 20 by 20 cubes. This is more than big enough to cover our spider. It's more than enough room. Now what we do is we keep them very, very simple as well. So with this one, we can take the lid off this one without upsetting anybody. And we can see in there, you get a little bit more light. Now as you can see, we keep just an inch or two of substrate in the bottom. This is done on purpose. We don't want this spider to burrow down and disappear. So we only put a small layer of stuff in the bottom. And then what we do is we use a piece of cork bark like here, and we lean it up against the back. We put a backboard on the enclosure, and that gives our spider the security that she requires. And then what happens is she will web up behind this board. Now we will breed her in here, so we introduce our male into here. He will get on and do the job. Balfouri are really easy in that way. They're not difficult. You don't have to muck around too much with them. You can pretty much, once you've got a female that is molted out and ready to go, and you've got a male that is mature, crack on, you know, get them together and see what happens. They really are pretty good. I think in the last 3 years, I think we've only lost 2 males, and we've bred an awful lot of Balfouri. We do breed a lot. Now, one of the things you'll notice with this web, about a week or so ago, this web was all behind the cork bark. There was nothing really on the outside. It was all behind. As she's getting prepared to lay a sac, she will web up more on the outside here. And then what you'll find, roughly, we found in here, roughly a week before the egg sac is due to hatch, she will come out of a night time and she will web up like this, and like these ones here. She will put fine web all over the whole enclosure. Now this is our cue. This is the thing that we've been waiting for. We've been looking at this enclosure for weeks, and we're just waiting for that egg sac to be produced. Once it's produced, we have a look in there, we see the egg sac, and with these guys it's just like a hammock. That's all it is. It's a hammock. It's not a ball sack like we see with our avics and our pokies and things like that. It's a hammock that they literally web up just a little bit, about that much off the floor, and they just see it. And the only reason you know that it's an egg sac is the change in the silk, the colour of the silk. You will see you've got this fine sort of webbing, and then you'll see this almost like solid white lump in the webbing, and that is your egg sac. And to be honest, it's not always very big. Sometimes it can be very, very small, but it can still manage to contain a lot of spiders. So don't be worried. If you only see a tiny little thing, you might think, oh, that's no good. There's a good chance there's a good lump of spiders in there as well. So don't panic over the size of the egg sac. Now, as we were saying, about a week before the egg sac is due to hatch, they will come out and they will web up all over, like these girls here. You see how they've webbed the whole of the enclosure over. Now, when that egg sac then hatches, you will find these babies will crawl out and they'll all be sitting inside that web. It's just layers and layers and layers of mixed up layers. and the young babies all climb out. And the reason they come out is because they're mobile within this web, and then also they molt out in it as well. So they literally hang out in it and they molt. And quite often or not, it's the first time, the first sort of sense that you know you've got spiderlings in there is when you start to see the odd little molt appear. And that's often the giveaway. So when we've gone from this to this, we know we've got babies imminent. So we often get asked, you know, should we check our female? Should we be doing this or that? No. Once you've got this stage and she seals herself in, leave her alone. And then she will come out and do this and let you know you're about to become a mum or a dad. You know, it's all going to be there. So then what we do then is we allow them to hatch out. Now, we can feed them almost as soon as they appear. I generally pop a bit of food in. And what I'll do is I will use a large roach, a nice big fat, you know, female roach full of juices and goodness. And quite often or not, I will pre-kill it and I will drop it into the web. Now, when that roach's nerves just kick it around, that female spider will come out and she will munch on that. She'll be hungry. She'll be ready for her food. She will come out and munch on that. And if you're lucky, you'll see all them little tiny babies. They will gravitate towards that female and she will share that food. Now, we do this once or twice like that. And then what I do is, as the babies start to grow, I will then go from dubia roaches. I will then go down to either large crickets or red runner roaches, and I pre-kill those as well. So all I do is I get them out, I squash their heads. If they've got big abdomens, I split them open so that all the juices come out, and then I just literally get half a dozen of them and I drop them all in the web. And then you will see them babies will all come out and they will start feasting on them carcasses that you've just dropped in there. And this is how we go. So I don't feed the babies live food. And one of the things that I've found over the time is that the Balfouris are a little bit almost nervous of live food. And I think this comes back to the thing that where they're all in there with mum, she kills the prey. And they're used to feeding on something that's either dying or dead. And so that is what we try and replicate. They often are not, they will run away. Now, the other thing that we get asked a lot is when you've got a small communal, spiders this size, you can see these guys in here, they're a really good size sling, a lovely size sling. You won't have no problems with a sling that size. If you've got half a dozen or 10, which is a good number to start a commune off, I always go for 6 or 10 or more. If you can afford more, go for more. But 6 or 10 will give you a really nice little communal. Now, when we get them, 10 that size, this is the size pot they need. They don't need anything bigger than this. This is a 16-ounce deli cup, and that is big enough, ample big enough. And all we do is we just get a little tiny piece of bark, put it in the bottom, soil in the bottom, and they will web underneath that bark and they will all live under that piece of bark. And then when it comes to feeding them, you just get 1 or 2 good sized crickets or a nice big fat roach, pre-kill it, lay it on the thing in the evening, do it in the evening, just lay it on the bark or on the soil, leave it overnight. And then when you come in the morning and you flick your lights on, just open it up, anything that's left, take it out and throw it away, and then just leave them be. Do that once a week and your spiderlings will grow at a rapid rate and they will do really, really well. I don't bother feeding them live food until they are probably this big. Once they're this sort of size, they will take on small roaches, small crickets and things like that. But the bigger the better. It's no hardship to pre-kill their food. And it's the safest and the most effective way we have found of growing them on. And we can really, really grow them on at a good rate by doing it in that way. So there's just a couple of sort of tips as to how we can look after these Balfouris. Now we also find as well with the Balfouri that they really, really do enjoy some heat. And these are a spider that literally will gravitate towards heat. If you put a heater in the room, quite often or not, if they can feel that direct heat, they will all come out and be up against the glass. They love the heat. So again, if you've got a Balfouri communal that's not doing anything, you're not seeing it, it's just inactive, chances are it's probably a little bit on the cool side. So turn the heat up, give them some more warmth. It's going to be beneficial. If you've got one enclosure, like our communal enclosure down there, you can see that. We'll get camera lady to have a little look down there. That is our communal enclosure. Now, we don't breed anything in there. We don't know if they've had babies in there or not. We've never seen any. We've only ever had a successful egg sac once in a communal, and this is why we go to individuals. But if you've got a communal like that, and you've got one big enclosure and you've got your stuff, and it's pretty inactive, put a heat mat on the back glass or on the end, put it on a thermostat, and just do that. Never put it underneath, because don't forget, these guys will burrow down. We don't want them burrowing down to a heat mat that they can't get away from. So always put it either on the back or on the sides. That's the perfect place. Run it on a thermostat, and then that way it will be safe. You're not going to cook your spiders. And then what they can do then is, if they require that heat, you will see them gravitate out towards it, and they'll be sat up on the glass getting all that lovely heat. And this is a way you can check to see whether your spiders are warm enough or not. So it's another good thing to sort of keep an eye on and have a look at. And if you're going to go down that road with the thermostats, go for a pulse thermostat. Try and avoid the heat mat stat. The heat mat stat, when it runs a heat mat, it flicks on and off, on and off. So once your temperature reaches what your thermostat is set for, it will switch off. It will then go cold, the temperature will drop, it will switch back on, temperature will go up. And it will do this continuously all the time. It's not a very effective way of doing it. If you want a really good way where your heat is permanent, it's always at the right temperature, go for a pulse thermostat. And a pulse thermostat basically is, as the word goes, it's pulsed. And it literally just keeps it going at that steady temperature permanently. So it's a much, much better way of doing things. Also works with your reptiles, all of that. Pulse thermostat gives you top control. Best thing in the world. A little bit more expensive, but worth every penny. Right. I think we've sort of like covered these. I think that is about it. When we come to watering, you will see these guys come out and use a water bowl. But one of the things that we like to do, especially on our communal, is we spray the web. And we do that. And that in itself will bring them out, and they will come out and have a drink. When we say about the spray, many people say about these spiders needing to be kept dry. We don't keep them dry. They like a good 50–60% humidity, and that keeps them spot on. They are bang on at that sort of thing. As you'll see in this enclosure here, you'll notice that the substrate down in the bottom here, this is actually damp. And this is because we're trying to get this female, now she's webbed all up, we know we're getting close to dropping, we're trying to encourage her to drop that egg sac. And what we do is we put some moisture down in the bottom, or we overfill the water bowl. That will bring the humidity up, and this often gets these girls to actually drop. If you keep them bone dry, 9 times out of 10 they will hold on. They will hang on forever. So give them some humidity. These are not a true desert species. They do like the humidity. Right then. Well, I hope that's come and been a little bit useful, and you've seen a little bit. We get the ups and downs in the breeding. We get successes and we get failures, but we keep plodding on. That's what it's all about. That's where the fun is. Right then. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, be calm, be gentle, and love your spiders. And I will see you soon, guys.